Berserk ended in a really interesting way. Practically wrapping up story threads from 20 volumes ago, Kentaro Miura firmly set the series on a course for its conclusion. As we all know, unfortunately Miura didn't live to see it. Recently though, I've been thinking about one of Miura's final quotes, the inevitable, and it's at this point that I pull the plug on my semi-finished script for what could have happened next, and instead update this to reflect the fact that Koji Mori has taken it upon himself to continue Berserk and detail everything that Miura entrusted to him beyond what was written. An insane continuation of a project. I'll be the first to admit I never thought this would happen. I actively thought it best to lower expectations and practically see 364 as the last chapter. In many ways it still is, there's just more to see coming our way, adapted from thoughts of Miura's by his close friend. I can't believe I never thought Mori would be the prime candidate for this, as even in his memorial and his comments about Miura, he brought up how they would regularly call, the calls lasting for hours, where Miura would discuss at great lengths the future of the series. This started all the way back when he was shown what would go on to be the pilot for Berserk as well. To think of those two details, looking back, it should have been natural to assume that he knew more about the future of the series than he was letting on. Doing something as pronounced as continuing the series speaks to that knowledge. For example, in the video that I was originally making, in regards to Guts and Griffith's fight, how can such a thing occur when the difference in power between the two is so vast? Perhaps this would have been interrupted by the moon itself, ensuring that both survive. It could whisk Griffith away as easily as it does the boy, considering they share the same body, leaving room for there to be follow-up battles. Obviously, I've looked at what I think happens in the distant future, but in terms of how he wrote, what would Chapter 365 actually look like? Well, the preview image for the exhibition gave us a small idea, but with Mori taking up this responsibility, it's clear we'll soon find out, and apparently there were other images like this, scattered around in chronology, that the team altogether wanted the fans to see. I wonder if something as soon as this moment is something that Miura discussed with Mori, because there is that precedent, where Guts always swings first, talks later, and that was the last time that the two spoke. It would make a lot of sense for that to be the case, and for this Miura-drawn frame to make one last appearance in the manga. It's such a great thing to have this series back, but it does make you wonder how much effort Mori is taking to just convey these remaining ideas, or if he is going to develop these ideas that are extremely delicate character interactions, like Guts has literally seen this Moonchild transform into Griffith. Guts already pieced a couple of things together, forming the connection of the demon fetus and the moon boy, with the connected moment between the two being the Tower of Rebirth. I think it won't actually take that much for Guts to make that leap. It might not take much more than a couple swings anyway. We know that he's no match for Griffith, with the brand being his main obstacle. If anything though, the Berserker armor powered by rage will be the thing that allows this fight to go on longer than the last one at least, something which he depends on increasingly as his strength begins to fail him. That's another small detail in a vast sea of details that Miura laid down, which makes me think more and more there's a very small chance that Mori is in this to wrap everybody's story up, so much as he is to briefly give these key chapters. I think I'll temper any expectations of any story developing further than the main trio, and possibly Skull Knight, because he might be involved in these big ideas that Miura shared as well. Skull Knight is on this very island, being the one to slash Femto not too long ago, the action that changed the state of this world. He could be looking to follow up that botched attack. In a preview image, a sane Casca is right in eye shot of Griffith. There's so many intricacies of what could happen in the lead up to that swing. Perhaps Miura would actually have had them talk for a longer while. How will the team approach the dialogue element for these chapters? Fairly often, Miura had very strong expository dialogue, with careful wording which kept the fanbase guessing as to minute translations for lore-based text. Perhaps to get these moments that Mori wants to tell, we might get more direct, blunt speech to lead into these moments. Mori does say that he doesn't want to flesh out the story beyond conveying these unpublished ideas. He's confirmed to be working with Miura's team, finishing up the Fantasia arc within 6 chapters, and then creating a final story arc, beat for beat, the memories of Miura's unpublished ideas. Or at least that's the way it reads for now. It should be said that after reading Mori's works, he is, contrary to that point, quite a patient mangaka, taking as long as he needs to let a story breathe, to tell everything he wants to tell. 6 chapters left in Fantasia certainly does sound more abbreviated than what Miura would have given us, so I wonder to what degree they'll commit to the final arc's chapter amount. Perhaps to get to each of these ideas, the pacing will increase heavily. For example, I don't think anyone foresaw the final saga taking less than 100 chapters, and I am not expecting Mori to commit that much time into Berserk as an accomplished mangaka himself. But then again, it looks like the artists are literally just Studio Gaga, so perhaps Mori has a hands-off role in this, more as an overseeing director. Perhaps some of these worries will be swept away, perhaps some of them are here to stay. But this is, once again, a very unexpected time for Berserk, and I genuinely never saw it coming. I think it's absolutely fine for those who think that the series shouldn't continue to dislike this decision. I think it's fine to see 364 as the ending, but I also think it's fine to support Mori through this massive decision, which is, at the end of the day, being made out of commitment to his close friend. It's also a really interesting turn of events that this whole time we were looking forward to the ending, but the journey to it was just as important, as Miura gave us such a beautiful journey filled with a richness that hundreds of manga never capture. But now that we can't get that same rich journey, it's strange to think that the most important thing to this continuation is probably the same as the most shared detail between the two, and that's the ending. It's a strange reverse of events, but the main point of the continuation is to reveal Miura's ideas, and there's no way Mori would take on this task if he wasn't thinking about having to deliver on this. So there's something interesting there. Wherever things go, this year looks to be a defining moment for some of those ideas, and for the trajectory of this ending. For 2022, that's another status on the future of Berserk. Who the hell knows what 2023 will bring, but I'm excited in just as many ways as I am still so gutted that Miura isn't here for it. What do you guys think of the return? Comment your thoughts down below. It looks like we're gonna get all of this content a lot sooner than we thought, so subscribe for more. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video and every video, and have a good night.